In today's video, we are making a spinnerbait. This exact spinnerbait is what caught me my personal best largemouth bass at the California Delta earlier this year. The only difference between this spinnerbait and the one that we caught that fish on earlier this year is the color. The components are going to be exactly the same. It's just the color this time of year isn't what I'm going for. So you're going to learn how to make the exact spinnerbait that I used to catch an 8-pounder on the California Delta. If you can believe it, the color that I used to catch that 8-pounder was a red spinnerbait up in the California Delta. Red is not the deal here locally, and it's not the deal this time of year for sure. So we are going to be making a more traditional color spinnerbait, but the mold, the components, everything is the same. So you can use this to tailor it however you want, just like I did to catch that big one. So stay tuned, watch this whole video, because everything in the video is important when it comes to making this spinnerbait. I've also got a product list down in the description of today's video that's going to outline everything that you need to make these spinnerbaits yourself at home. The mold and all the components are linked down in the description. My Duo Molds affiliate link is down there as well. If you go to the Duo Mold site to buy anything, please go through that affiliate link so they know that I sent you. And it'll also be a way to get some credit back to the channel. So the first thing we're going to talk about in today's video is the different components that you're going to need to make your spinnerbaits. We're going to basically start from the pouring process all the way to the final actual spinnerbait. You're going to need the Ultra Minnow spinner jig mold. You're going to need the wire form, and then that's going to be dependent upon what diameter wire form you're going to want to use. I like thinner wire forms, so that's what I choose to go with. The next thing you're going to need is some beads to create your spacing on your spinnerbait. You're going to need the Clevis. That's where that first blade's going to go. And then you're going to need some sort of spacing between the Clevis and the final bead that goes before the bend of your actual secondary blade. The hook that I'm going to be using in today's video is the Owner spinnerbait hook. Super sharp. Really like that hook. And I like that 3/0 size seemed to work pretty well. One of the things I really recommend when you're making these spinnerbaits is to make sure you preheat your mold, as you have a lot of different components going into the head of that spinnerbait. So sometimes getting complete pours is a little bit difficult, especially if you don't have everything nice and hot inside that mold. Simply just putting the mold on top of the lead pot while everything heats up and that lead gets melted down can really be a benefit to getting everything to come out so nice and smooth and nice and complete. So one other product I do recommend having at the ready when you're making these spinnerbaits is this Blaster Dry Lube. This stuff will help all the lead go into the mold nice and smooth, help get some complete pours. I'm not somebody that likes to smoke my mold, so adding some of this can really be a benefit. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. It's an affiliate link to Amazon, so if you use that, Amazon will know I sent you and I'll get some credit for that. Okay, so in today's video, we're gonna be making 3/8 ounce spinnerbaits. And the first step in the process is getting our components into the mold. So as you can see right now, we have this tilt on the back side of our mold. So what you want to do is just take another mold that you have at the house already and then position that wire form up on this other mold, so that way you can get everything nice and evenly distributed on that mold. So that looks a lot better. It looks a lot more like it's supposed to. So what I'm going to do is, because I've modified this mold to accept a wire keeper, I'm going to get a wire keeper. It's the WB400 wire keeper. It's going to go right there next to the hook. Set that wire form in there. Make sure it hits in its spot just like that. So as you can see, everything's in there where it needs to be. You want to make sure that you have a good even amount of gap between each side of the mold and the hook shaft. Everything's looking good in there right now. One last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add tape right up here to kind of keep everything in position to keep my wire form from spinning when I go to actually pour the lead into the mold. So you just need a small piece of tape just like this one. There's nothing special about it. It's just blue tape you can get from any hardware store. But you just want to put that tape on there, and you want to make sure it's not going to impact the mold when you close it or anything like that. And I like to have it up the shaft of that wire form just slightly, so that way it keeps everything in position. So now we're gonna close up the mold. We'll go over here, check the top, make sure everything's closed nicely, which it is, so we are ready to go pour. One of the first things I like to do is check for flow. We have good flow. We're gonna get the mold underneath, pour our lead into the mold, and here in a second we will check to make sure we got a good complete spinnerbait. Okay, so it's time to open up the mold and check out our spinnerbait. Bring it closer to the camera. And it's looking like it turned out pretty darn good, nice and complete. And then one other thing that you want to do after you pour these is just check to make sure our wire form is in line with the line where the mold comes together. If it's straight right there, it's straight in the mold, and then you are good to go. You don't need to bend anything after it's already poured. Okay, so off camera, I've been making a couple more of these spinner baits. I need to make about 5 of them to put into my tackle box. And I got one where the wire form's offset from the mold like I told you guys about. You want everything to be in line with the line that the mold makes when it comes together. So this one obviously is not. And all you have to do is basically bend it out so it goes straight. A little bit further, a little bit more, a little more. And right there is about where you want it to be. That way when you take it out of the mold, everything is nice and straight. So when you go to fish this, everything is nice and in tune. This is what our spinnerbait looks like all done out of the mold. We still have the sprue up on top, but it's cooled down and we can start to finish up putting all the little components onto our spinnerbait. But the first thing we need to do is cut off the sprue. What you need is a pair of cutters just like this, little shears. And you're just gonna go to the top of that sprue and you're just gonna cut it off, just like that. So you're gonna have some leftover, hopefully it shows up on camera. There's like a little leftover that you need to be cleaning off. And what I like to use is just a file. And I just file this down and I just take care to make sure that when I do it, I keep the shape of the head. So I go back and forth and try to keep it as round as possible to keep that shape. It's pretty close. And then there you have it. It's all done. Nice and smooth. Still looks exactly like it's supposed to. And now we're ready to put the components on. So the next step in the process is putting eyes on my spinnerbaits. I don't generally paint my spinnerbait heads because I like the lead color. I feel like it gives it more realism than painting it white or something like that. So I like to leave them just as they are out of the mold, and then I add these eyes on there. This is a gold eye with a majority of it being black. I just feel like it gives it a lot of realism. So the next step in the process is gluing on these eyes. And I just have some Gorilla Super Glue. I'll leave a link down in the description. I'm just gonna dab a little bit of glue into that lure eye. And it doesn't take much. A little goes a long way with this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of tweezers with the eyes of choice, which are these gold ones. And I'm simply just gonna lay it in there right on top of that super glue that I just dabbed in there. Trying to be careful to not get super glue all over my tweezers. We'll do it one more time on the other side. Just gotta fumble around with it and get it into the slot. And then just like that. So that's the final look of the spinnerbait, just like that. I think that that gives off a lot of realism, and those lure eyes aren't coming off either. But one finishing touch is I take some Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails and I just simply brush those lure eyes. It kind of just gives it a nice coating over it, and it just makes everything look nice and even. And I just feel like it just keeps those lure eyes in position just a little bit better. Okay, so on the table right now, we have the components that we need. We have our spinnerbait, we have 2 gold beads, we have 6 of these smaller beads, we have our Clevis, and we have our Hildebrandt number 4 Colorado blade. So what I'm gonna start doing is putting all these components together. The first thing that we need to do is take one of these gold beads and we're gonna thread it on to the spinnerbait. Just like that, and slide it all the way to the top. The next thing we're gonna do is set it down. We're gonna grab our Hildebrandt blade and the Clevis. Gonna slide the Clevis through the hole of the Colorado blade, just like that. And this is one of the most important parts of building your spinnerbait, is you have to have the rounded part of your Colorado blade go towards the head of this spinnerbait. If you do this part wrong, your spinnerbait will not perform the way it's supposed to. So we're gonna slide that on and let it go to the top as well. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 6 smaller beads and we're gonna put them on one by one. You can use a different spacer, but I like the beads. I feel like it's gonna give me a little bit more noise and a little bit more rattle. So that's why I go with the beads. They're so small that it can be a little bit hard to put them on. Okay, so there's where we're at right now. So we have the first gold bead, the Clevis with a Colorado blade, and then our 6 silver beads. We're gonna put one more of the gold beads on. And this is where we stop. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a bend in our wire at the end. What you need is some of these round nose pliers like this. What we're gonna do is take the end. I wanna use as little of this as possible. So I have maybe 1/4 of an inch sticking out on the side, or out the back of these round nose pliers. We're just gonna bend this over. Just like that. So then you have a bend in the wire, just like that. So now you need your swivel that you're gonna put your last blade on, which is, this is just a barrel swivel. You want it to have the split rings on both sides, and then you're gonna need split ring pliers to put that blade on. So what we're gonna do is get our split ring pliers in position to open up the split ring. Just like that. And then now we're gonna thread it onto our willow blade. It's a 4.5 sized Hildebrandt. So now we have our blade on our swivel. Then we're gonna come over here, and since there's still a little bit of a gap, you can just slide this right on, or you can use the split ring pliers to open up the split ring and just slide this on. So here's our finish up spinnerbait right here without the skirt on. I just wanted to try to give you guys a good look at this blade before we put the skirt on. But I think this one is dialed in. I really like this combo right here. And then what we're gonna do for skirts is, I really like these 6 cent silicone skirts. Get them on the 6 Cents website. I have a discount code Luna10. You can get them for a discount. But you can also make up your own skirts. But 6 Cent skirts are just super dialed in, awesome color schemes. But if you want to get super intricate with your skirts, do not be afraid to make them. It's not that difficult. But for today's video, we're going to be using this 6 Cent silicone skirt. This is the chartreuse white flash. This is literally what's going in my boat after this video. And as you can see right here, the skirt is banded right in the middle. You're going to want to offset that band just slightly, about a 1/2 inch down, and have it offset a little bit. The reason why you want it offset is because when you put this on your spinnerbait, you need it offset so that way all the different strands fall evenly. If you don't want that to happen, then you can leave it in the middle, but then I just kind of tear apart everything so that way you have good separation between all your pieces of silicone, because when that band is on there, it gets them all to stick together, so you just kind of peel it apart. Okay, so make sure to pay attention on this part, because this is important as well. So this is my shorter side that goes down towards the table. You want to take your hook point and put that down into the skirt, because you need this bottom part to end up on the bottom of your spinnerbait. So you're just going to separate everything, get everything in the middle, so that way your hook and everything is nice in the middle. Slide everything up, just like that. And there you have it. Our skirt is all on and looks good. One more thing I want to show you is when you bend the wire like this, if you leave it open as it is right now, occasionally you'll throw these blades off. And sometimes spinnerbaits that you buy will do the same thing. But what you can do to close that up a little bit better is just to take a little piece of wire. Typically I would use silver wire because it would match a little bit better, but I just don't have any in the garage right now. It's in my boat actually. So what you can do is just wrap this wire around to kind of close off that gap a little bit, and it will help keep that blade on there a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set this wire underneath the bend, and I'm just going to wrap it a couple times. You want to make sure you get it right where all the wires come together, right where that bend comes together with the wire, and just wrap around that spot 3-4 times. So that's where we're at right here. Hopefully that's coming through on camera okay. Around the back of my hand, you see that wrap. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bring these two pieces together. And then what I like to do to get everything nice and tight is I take a pair of pliers and I just pull this super tight. Sometimes you'll break the wire just like I did right there, but that gets everything nice and tight down there on the wire. So then what you can do is you can just come in here and clip it just like that. And then you just take your fingers and just bend everything so that way the wires don't poke out, catch your line or anything like that. But that's just a simple, easy way to close up that gap and keep your final willow blade from falling off. Well guys, there you go. We got two awesome spinner baits right here. They turned out just like I like them. These things are proven to catch fish. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know these things flat out get bit. These spinner baits have caught a ton of fish for me, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you want to see me catch my PB on this exact spinnerbait, just in a different color, make sure to click on the video that's on the screen right now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.